Later this month, Hondurans will head to the polls and cast their votes for a new president. On the ballot, a slew of new parties that have emerged in recent years, most notably the Liberty and Refoundation Party, led by former First Lady Xiomara Castro. Her husband, former President Manuel Zelaya, was forced out of office in 2009 by a military-led coup. Whoever becomes the next president will take over a struggling country, ranked as the most violent nation in the world, plagued by corruption with serious financial challenges. Contributing correspondent John Holman went to Honduras and interviewed the three major candidates, trying to find out where they want to take the country.
Honduras has grown used to the sound of protest. The country is broke. Hospitals and schools are desperate for resources. Brutal street gangs murder and extort. It's clear who these people blame for the problems.
There is not one politician worth saving, not even one. They've all been suckling at the teat of the country, damaging this country.
In the midst of a prolonged crisis, Honduras is about to choose its next leader. Historically, that choice has been between two established parties, the red and white of the Liberals and the blue of the Nationals. But this election, street vendors have something new to sell, and new faces have energized the race. In a country desperate for solutions, new political parties have been springing up these elections. The most popular is the Libre Party, led by Xiomara Castro. If she wins, she would become the country's first female president. But she's also a symbol of a recent, tumultuous past. Her husband is ex-President Manuel Zelaya. In 2009, he was removed from office by his political opponents and the military. The coup polarized the nation. Street battles and chaos followed. International aid was cut and internal strife deepened. Politically motivated violence and killings are common in a country struggling to reach stability. Now, back on the front line of politics, Zelaya takes a prominent role at his wife's rallies. Many believe he could take an even more prominent role in government, a prospect that is dividing the country once again.
President Zelaya is my husband of 37 years, and when he was governing the country, he asked me for advice many times, but the last word was always his. Now imagine my situation. It seems to me one of the greatest opportunities I have is to have someone with the success he had to give me the advice I need to solve the country's problems. Logically, I will make the decisions.
Castro trades heavily on her husband's experience, but presents her candidacy and her gender as a new beginning. Other emerging parties are also proving popular. Salvador Nasrallah, a TV presenter, is running on a promise to wipe out the corruption that plagues Honduras.
The politicians that have governed the country in the last 100 years have seen the positions of power as an opportunity to get rich and make their families and friends rich. What gets stolen can't get used for medicine, for projects, for education.
And the electoral process isn't immune from such corruption. Concerns about the origins of campaign funds and fraud hang heavy over the presidential race. A race in which the candidate for the governing National Party, Juan Hernandez, is one of the favourites, despite his party's failures while in office. That's because he's deliberately gathered the machinery of the state and government money behind him, says judge and government critic Ramon Barrios.
He started as president of Congress, and then he took hold of the Supreme Court by firing 4 judges. When he chose a new general attorney, he took control of that office too. So in the last 4 years, step by step, he's been taking ownership of the state institutions so that now they all obey Juan Hernandez.
In a country whose institutions were weakened by the coup, which Hernandez himself supported, the breadth of his influence has raised questions.
Pero se preocupa a algunos sectores de la población, hasta empresarios que apoyan a usted, con quienes hemos hablado, de que usted es un hombre que excede la ley, que hace acciones que son más allá de la ley.
Mire, yo soy un hombre de resultados.
Listen, I'm a man of results. I'm very demanding with myself. And in this country, we need order in the justice institutes, in the Constitution, in our laws.
Hernandez has already put in motion his plan to reduce terrible violence, a controversial military police force.
This creates a space so that we can recover the peace. When you live in other countries than ours and we get a homicide rate of 85 people per 100,000 people, if that was in your country, you would think that you had to do anything to resolve that problem within the law.
His message resonates with the lunchtime crowd in San Pedro's market, like tortilla maker Cindy Funes, whose brother was killed in a robbery.
I want the crime to stop, to go to work in safety, because when you go out here, you don't know if you'll come back home.
A mother, Mirna, told us that the roots of the violence must also be tackled.
It would be good if our country focused on education and employment. Unfortunately, there are areas that haven't been prioritized. Unemployment has been one of the origins of so much crime and violence.
Almost 2 in 3 Hondurans live in poverty. Less than a third of children finish secondary education. But Oscar Giron says he has heard no long-term solutions.
There is no politician, even though we have 8 candidates, that has any real policy ideas who doesn't respond to interests. And that's the biggest problem Honduras has.
Instead, populist speeches and cash handouts offer a well-trodden path to the presidency.
Candidates know that personal contact or an offer of material help to families can win votes. That's why, for example, Juan Orlando Hernandez, the candidate for the National Party, has come up with the Cachureca. It's a discount card for shopping, fast food and telephone calls.
Luis Larache belongs to another class that politicians especially want to court, the small minority who hold the lion's share of the nation's wealth and influence. His family owns supermarkets, energy plants and hotels. He's concerned that Castro would threaten the private sector, like her husband.
President Zelaya increased the minimum salary by 60% from one day to another, and that generated the unemployment that you see today in the country. So we shouldn't be led by these offers that seem good today, but tomorrow we're going to go hungry.
Those who backed Zelaya's removal accused him of aping the socialist policies of Venezuela's Hugo Chavez. That spectre has already been raised over his wife, who has proposed renationalizing some industries. Even as the country struggles to look forward, the election has reopened old wounds and deepened divisions.
Who are those who took up arms to suppress us? Who are the violent ones? Who led the coup against us? We were the victims.
Caught between those political battle lines, a poverty-stricken majority who care little for ideology and just hope the next president can do something to improve their lives.